And we're live. Oh God. And we're live. Yes, we are now live. What's up, everybody? Welcome to VKH Live. We are in maintenance mode right now, so this is kind of a low content visual content stream. Continuing to do some work behind the scenes. So just to make sure everything goes off without a hitch, decided to just kind of do it this way for tonight. But it's looking like moving forward, we're going to have a series of new stream formats that are going to be pretty cool. So anyway, I'm your host, Jeff, and with me tonight is Winona.
Hey guys.
So tonight's topic, we're talking about Scandal. For those of you who are unfamiliar, Scandal is a very, very big, very popular J-rock band, J-pop rock band, all-girl band. They're one of the
all-girl band.
Yeah, they're kind of the ones that you can credit for making like the all-girl rock bands in Japan like a big thing. They were pretty much the first that really, or one of the first at least, that like really blew up in terms of like mainstream success, and like the anime opening levels of popularity and stuff like that. So
yeah, they're an interesting girl group because they all sing. They all have some part in vocals, but they all have their individual instruments. So I respect it.
Yeah, it's very much a back and forth kind of thing between like, it's kind of like a girl group in some ways. They behave,
idol group, but not
really, because they do all know how to play instruments and stuff like that.
It's more like if you took the rock hype in the idol scene and inversed it, like take baby metal but inverse that what they're doing.
Yeah, to a certain degree, I think so. If you want to check out their music, they have a few PVs available in the States. I did link down to their album on CD Japan, their latest album called Honey. I listened through that today. I'll talk about that in a second. But the reason we're talking about this tonight is because Winona actually got to see them live in New York City. And so she's going to tell us what her impressions of this, super, popular anime opening making machine of a band, Scandal, the pop rock superstars and all that, like what they were like live in New York City. So you can go ahead and take it away, Winona.
All right, here we go. Let's see. When I saw them, the first few, like the initial first impressions of the concert, very good. They had like a lot of people at the show when I walked in. They played at PlayStation Theater, which was also where the Gazette had their show. And I think a few years prior to that, in like 2015, when OK Rock had a show there when it was Best Buy Theater. And so there's definitely a lot of Japanese rock bands that come through that venue. And when people were waiting, I think they were playing their music like over the speakers, which I mean, oftentimes they don't do that. At venues, they just kind of play random rock music that kind of is relevant to the band. But I guess they made a point to play their music over the speakers. And when they came onto the stage, the lights go dim, everyone's screaming, but before the band comes out, they're tuning their instruments. You can hear, I think, Tomomi on bass, and let's see if I can remember all the band member names. Mami on guitar and all that. And then when they come on stage, everyone's screaming. And the adrenaline in the room is like kind of there, but this is also a pop rock band. So the audience, because I talked to Jeff about it before, as he described it as like a mainstream audience based on how I explained it, because there were a lot of people in the back. There was a good number of people who were toward the back of the venue and a good number of people who were at the front. And like in the area that would be a mosh pit, essentially, like on the floor and stuff. Because PlayStation Theater has like the balconies, and then there's the floor, and then there's a little set of stairs that go a little up, and then an upper level, kind of. And just so I could see, because I'm really short, I stood on the stairs. But let's see, there was a good number of people up front who were jumping at some points. But from how the playlist was, they started off super heavy and hard, and they tried to maintain that kind of energy. And the music was really good, and the light choreography was really good. But I felt like the show was kind of lacking when it came to how the band members like directly interacted with the audience. And that probably comes from us being such a niche website and seeing like, you know, starved Visual K fans like going nuts whenever they see a Visual K band on stage. And also you see like the bands just kind of commanding the crowd a little more. But Seattle was able to command the audience really well as well. Like Haruna led people's clapping at certain points when the time came, and somewhere people got towels. I don't know where or when, because I didn't see the merchandise booth, so I was really confused when they all took out towels and started spinning them. But like, good on them for having that. And there was this one person in the audience who just like had these the light up wands that you see like in some like idol concerts or in like Japanese concerts that like change color and stuff. Somebody had those and was like dedicated to waving those all night, because like without fail I would look over to the right and just see like that same person with their wands, or same two people with their wands the whole time. And I was like, that's dedication, because my arms would have gotten tired and I would have given up after like 2 minutes of that. But yeah, I think the best way to describe the performance is that it was good, but you know, when you come from a heavier niche, and you come from a very specific interest in harder music, and you expect a crowd to like tackle you whenever you're standing in the audience, it can feel like the crowd is lacking that energy. But everyone was definitely into the show, because everyone was definitely watching it. And you know, you had your few people who broke the rules because you weren't supposed to be filming or recording or anything, and some people had their phones out to record songs and stuff. And at one point they had a song that was called New York, and it was the first time, well, the main thing about the show is that it was their first time performing on the East Coast in like 10 years, right? So I kind of expected there to just be more, not like from the band, but more response from the audience. And that response started to come in more as the band members were more active on the stage. Like you'd see, instead of just seeing them like sway in synchronization occasionally during certain points in certain songs, or like headbanging or just circling around Rena on drums, you'd see them actually like jump up and down, which got the crowd more excited just from seeing them jumping up and down, and just from seeing them like dancing more and more on stage. And I think that response started to hit the band more directly, and they started to do that more and more often as the concert went on. And I started to feel more involved in it. Even though I don't like move during shows, I just felt more aware of my surroundings and what was happening as they were moving. And I feel like the crowd felt that as well, because there were people who were standing around me who at first were just standing there like I was, just kind of nodding along. And I was nodding along because I don't do that. But people were just nodding along, filming. And then once they started to get more excited from the band's movements and stuff, they started to like get super hyped and then move around and like change places from the back of the venue where I was to actually join the crowd up front that was like in unison jumping and all that stuff. And yeah, at the end of the show, it ended up being really, really good. But it took a little while to get to the point where the whole crowd was like super involved in what the band was doing. Yeah. And me and Jeff were talking about it on the phone later that night. I don't remember why I called him. I think I was bored. And then we just discussed it. And we said they had a good amount of fans who had been with them for that, like through that 10 years, and like some since the beginning, and there was only like one person in the audience that raised their hand when they asked like who had been at the show 10 years ago. And Haruna was like, what, like you're so, like you're lying, and she was like, no way, really, and that whole spiel, and it was really cute. But at the end of the day, I think more fans went there to see their older stuff, which they had more exposure to, as opposed to their newer stuff, which was a little more tweaked to be more popular with a mainstream audience, so more people would like air quote like it, rather than like a lot of people who love it and a lot of people who don't. And because of that, there was just a little less intensity of passion from the audience. Like the intensity, like the passion was definitely coming from the band. They were all for it. It was just the audience response to a lot of things. And that kind of led us to speculate how their career had projected since they began and going through where they are now. Because they didn't really, they didn't move much on stage. And that was a little bit concerning. And, you know, having played Yokohama Arena and all of those large national stadiums, you'd kind of hope or expect that they be able to command that room a little better than just like saying commands. Like, I mean, physically commanding the room, walking around and cleaning their spaces. But
well, you would.
But that didn't happen.
You would until you look up those lives and you realize that the reason they're standing still, or what's filling in all of that, is these massive...
because they don't have to talk to the audience anymore, just lights and stuff. Like, they don't need to talk to the audience because there's so much room between them and the audience.
Yeah, just these massive screens and massive projections of like trippy, crazy, you know, background visuals. And
but
you know, like it does all that for them, and then they stand right there the whole time.
Yeah, and that's all they did during the show. And when I watched their music videos, even their music videos, you know, they're recorded. The way they stand in music videos, I guess it makes sense because they are in a studio recording, right? But when you look at other music videos from other artists, even they get hyped during the recording. And Scandal, the way they look in the music videos is the way they looked on stage. Just standing there and like playing, like doing what they're doing in the music videos in their singular spots continuously, not moving as much or trying to like interact with the audience, because there's no audience in a studio. But there's an audience right in front of you that's not behind a camera or anything. So you're like totally able to talk to them and things like that. Not that they didn't talk. They had plenty of MCs and they definitely had conversations. And those interactions were what made people more excited about the show than when they just played a song. Because when I was at that concert, it was more like listening to Scandal's music live than seeing Scandal live, if that makes sense.
Wait, can you say that again?
It was more like just listening to Scandal's music live than seeing Scandal live, like seeing a performance. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's the pop star side of them, or the idol group side, is that it's like their concerts, the ones they have on DVD, literally look like, you know, they're like a pop concert, in that they require background visuals and effects and stuff to really pull off.
Even idol groups have furitsuke, right? And they have like dance moves that keep the audience like entertained. Like K-pop's fucking huge because not only do all the guys sing, but they all dance, and the dances are complicated as shit, and you just keep watching the dances. But if you're just standing on stage and you're making the same movements that you did for an hour long, people are gonna get tired.
Did they do those choreographed little moves they do sometimes, where they all like move their guitar in the same way or whatever?
No, that's what I was saying. There's swing and synchronization, and headbang and coming around arena occasionally. Like they did the moves that they would do at the arena, or on a stadium recording or on the PV recording. Yeah, it wasn't enough because because Japanese rock is a niche in the U.S. and what people in the niche scenes typically want is to like interact more with the band that they're seeing live, because it's like almost a once in a lifetime thing that you get to see them live. It doesn't happen as often as it does with US artists, because you can see a US artist like every year, but with a Japanese artist you can only see them like once every 5 years or something like that. And sometimes it's the same thing with the Japanese artists, where they like are super excited to see their American fans because they're like ready for them to go fucking nuts. So they're gonna do everything they can to make them go wild. But with Scandal, I think they got really comfortable in their fame, and like too comfortable in their fame in Japan, and thought that fame reached globally, and they kind of forgot where their stance is, especially on the East Coast, because they hadn't been in New York in 10 years. So not everyone knows who they are on the East Coast, at least, because the West Coast, that's like hella miles away. And they've toured in the West Coast, like before they were on the West Coast in like 2015, they were in California, and we had somebody out there to photograph that show, and they like handled that like they typically would. But on the East Coast, they kind of handled it like they had been here last year, but they hadn't been here in 10 years. So they just forgot where they were in the global spectrum. Like they forgot that they're not number one overseas. They forgot that they're technically starting out. But the way they treated their concert was like they were already on top. Like they're super talented, and they have a lot of history behind them, and I really respect that. But when you become a major artist and you become one of the big guys, you can't forget where you came from, and you can't get comfortable and complacent in where you are, because then you end up with lazy performances. Like the music can be awesome, but the performance and the ultimate concert experience can be poor. And that's what's going to end up hurting you later down the line. And you can't have concerts anymore because nobody would want to see you. Everyone's just going to buy your music, and you're still going to make money, but you aren't going to be able to be an entertainer.
Yeah, I remember I was looking up like the countries they were most popular in, and I'm pretty sure like all the way up through like the top 12 or whatever, if you put them all on a map, they would just radiate out from Japan into like, Hong Kong, Korea, China, Australia even. So like
Singapore loves them too.
They have really huge like Pacific region popularity. So I could imagine that they're probably just used to, oh, it's another world tour. All these countries we go to, they know us. And then they come to the US 10 years later, and it's like,
no, it's more,
really know you.
no. It's more specifically New York, because they went to Los Angeles on their last world tour, but they hadn't been to New York specifically in 10 years. And
so
having
they're not popular around the world. They're popular almost around the world. It's just the direct opposite side of the world. Not quite there. Got to reach a little bit more.
It's like they're popular in the spaces that they hit more often and consistently, but then they forget about all the places that they don't go to as often, and they think, well, we've been there before, so they still love us. And it's like, yeah, they still like you. But if you go there 10 years later, there's going to be a lot of people who had, like, literally there was one person in the audience who saw them 10 years ago. Like, there's going to be a lot of people who become your fans since then, but this will be the first time they're seeing you. And you want to leave a really awesome impression on all those people who are seeing you for the first time. And as time goes on, there's going to be more and more people who are seeing you for the first time. And they're hoping for, like, this super awesome performance. But when you don't deliver on at least the minimum of what they're expecting, then there's a good chance they won't want to come back, because they'll feel like they wasted their money, essentially. Like, yeah, they got to buy the merchandise and they got to see you and they got to hear your music, but they didn't get the experience that they wanted.
Although, since they did kind of seem like they were just casually there, maybe they weren't expecting a ton to begin with?
No, I think they just got comfortable.
Oh, okay.
They were like super excited about being there after 10 years length and stuff, but
yeah,
I think they just forgot.
Yeah, my point for the mainstream thing was that at least over here, people have probably settled into got their popularity is, it's still here, but it's kind of faded into the background to the point where I would imagine a lot of people didn't go there because it's like, oh my gosh, I love Scandal the band. I know everything about them. It's I loved that anime that they were an opening for. Like Delta pointed out, they were they had an outro for Full Metal Alchemist, and I'd known them from like a Bleach opening, and so they've been on a lot of stuff. So I could imagine that it's like the general vibe is something more of like what you would see a top 40 artist or appearing in.
I literally know them from the last time we covered them on the world tour. I mean, I've known their name and stuff, but like I know them from like when we covered them in Singapore and all that junk. But Delta had pointed out like because they saw them in ASEN and said all I remember about the ASEN concert is it was loud AF and the crowd energy was weak, and that was literally how I felt too, because it was stupid loud. Like I was like, yo, why is this music so loud? Like it's just so loud, but the crowd wasn't feeling it. Like the crowd just wasn't moving as much. So yeah, while I felt the bass like in my body, I didn't feel as reactive to it as I would have if it were like a Duran Gray concert or something. And the music didn't need to be that loud. It was like they were trying to be more than what it was. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say, because some of the stuff you're describing, and I believe I said this on the phone, it kind of reminds me like out here or down here in Miami, when you go out to like these like, these open lounges or these bars or nightclubs or like this event in the art district I went to last week or 2 weeks ago or something. They always have a DJ there. And like the DJ's an artist, like he has a website and like he makes his own music and he's going to promote his stuff if you let him. But he's really just there to kind of set the mood. Is like that's what they want him there for. So they're always at a disadvantage in terms of like the show's not really focused on them. Like it's there for people to as they get drinks and they mingle and they hang out. So the vibe you were describing sounds kind of similar, except it's just it's strange because it's like people were there for Scandal, ostensibly, but I guess like the general vibe, it kind of felt like it's like I'm here for the anime songs and because and then everybody got comfortable because it's like it sounds like they like a background performance the way you describe it.
Yep. Yeah.
That's even what local bands that are hired to play at like if there's a Latin band that's going to play at like a like a Latin themed restaurant or something, they don't try and draw the spotlight completely on them. So they don't move around a ton and stuff, and people are talking and paying attention and not paying attention, and it's interesting. Did you what did you think? Did you notice any of their newer stuff when played live? I'm
a casual listener. Oh, yeah, I'm a casual listener. So
yeah, that's why I was asking. Like, so you wouldn't have known the difference too much.
I knew when their older stuff played, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think, that's pretty much all I can say. I knew when their older stuff played because I could recognize it. Their newer stuff, I couldn't recognize so much because I hadn't heard it as often.
Okay. Did they kind of put the old stuff throughout, or did they save it for a specific part?
They put it, I think at the beginning they played an old song, a really popular song. And at the end, they played Scandal Baby. But then they repeated Scandal Baby during their encore, but just played it harder.
Oh, okay.
But it was really weird. I was like, this is the same song. So, but what was really weird was at the end of the whole show, apparently Haruna forgot to introduce the band members. So when they were gonna walk off stage, she's like, "So like, yeah, I have to introduce the band." And I was like, "Oh." I
Yeah,
mean, it was cute, but like, yeah, that says a lot about where they thought they were. Like, they were just gonna walk out on stage, play, and leave. But like, at the end, Haruno was like, "Oh wait, this is America," and then
oh,
reintroduced.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah, she was speaking English the whole time, which was great. But like, she just did it. It didn't click with some of them. Like, oh, we have to introduce ourselves because there are people here who don't know who we are. So
Yeah, I almost want to put that on like their management to a certain degree. Like, I mean, were they? I don't know. Were
their
they
A
not
and R
aware?
for not like informing them.
Yeah, like were they aware, like of exactly how popular they were? Or were they just told like, oh, you're popular everywhere, all over the world, PR lines everywhere?
They were probably just telling them numbers like, hey, you sold this many CDs globally. And like, yeah, people love you in America. People love you everywhere. And then not specifying the cities people loved them in.
Yeah. Yeah, man. The more you describe it, the more it does sound like it does remind me of a top 40 artist, and I'm not actually using that in a derogatory sense this time. It's more of just like the way it
Because they
is.
are in Japan. Like,
Yeah.
Scandal. No, this is the weirdest thing if you think about it. Like, pop artists in Japan would be Scandal, 1OK Rock, Gact, TMR, and then, your typical pop sounding artists. But there are a good handful of rock artists who come here that are considered just straight up pop music in Japan, just because of how often their name is thrown around and how often they show up in commercials and stuff. Lark Ciel would be a pop artist in Japan. Granted, they're still a rock band, but they're still a pop artist. They're like Maroon 5 over there. So I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, you know what it is? It's they're doing with rock in their like quote unquote top 40 scene, like what, like how rap has gotten into like the top 40 scene here. And I can totally draw the correlation because like Post Malone, like I'll listen to Post Malone, I'll listen to him on the radio. He's well established in top 40 now. His music comes up and stuff like that. But would I go to a Post Malone concert? Maybe. But like, would I be like stoked and like amazed and excited that? No, I'd be like there just kind of casually, just kind of checking it out. I'd probably be
Yeah, like,
comfortable.
but I think
Like,
I think no, I think the best correlation for this is like there are the top 40 artists that still have super hardcore fans, and then the top 40 artists who have fans like Post Malone. And the Post Malone
yeah,
correlation would go to Scandal, but then like the 1OK Rock correlation would go to Kendrick Lamar.
or yeah,
So yeah, except Kendrick's concerts all go to like they're so expensive, so now only white people go.
okay.
Let's just keep
So
going.
so he doesn't play in the Midwest, I take it.
I have no idea.
um, so man, like yeah, it's just really weird to hear about because like I did listen to their newest album today, and you are right in the sense that they kind of they went they went in more of a mainstream direction, but it's kind of funny because it's like the mainstream Annie song band or that mainstream J-rock sound has gotten heavier, so their sound actually got a little bit heavier.
It did, yeah. I could tell the
Yeah.
newer songs from the older songs mostly because they got like oddly punk-like.
Yeah,
So
it's because of bands like Bandmade, which is
yeah,
what like our viewers will most likely know more is Bandmade because they're very accessible on YouTube, and they kind of have the more modern approach because they are a newer band. They kind of had to, and yeah, so like Scandal is like the band that Bandmade would like kind of thank for like kind of paving this market out for bands like that. But it's like they're now, because Scandal has always operated in the mainstream and just kind of been doing mainstream and then edging mainstream along a little bit sometimes as well. They're now having to adapt to what the other girl groups that are in this, scene that they've made, are pushing as well. So when bands like Bandmate, and it's not just Bandmate, it's a good amount of girl groups that have debuted in the last few years, like girl rock groups, that they've gotten harder or heavier. Scandal's going to try and adapt a little bit to that. It's just a little strange. It's just interesting because if you listen to the album, they lean in that direction, but they don't go full force in that direction. And I think it's just because it. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I also noticed that they also kind of went in this oddly, like, funky direction, and that happened because of bands like Radio. But Radio's the only band who does that. But they've gotten, like, popular because of their anime song openings. And just because there's competition in it, I think that's why Scandal, like, if there's competition in their market that's doing a really good job, they're going to, like, add a little of it there so that they can sound like they have it all, if that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. But the problem, I think, is that it's not really in their DNA as much as, like, these newer bands that started with it. And it's all weird because, like, to a lot of people that maybe, like, the kind of people that are into Visual K or, like, might check out our website, this all probably just looks like J-pop rock to people. But when you actually look past, like, the idol aesthetic and showmanship, and you listen to their music, there is, like, a whole bunch of different ways this can go. And so, like, a band like Bandmade, they kind of they operate in this mainstream sound, but they lean mostly towards hard rock. I don't know if you would call it hard rock all the time, but they lean in that direction. Whereas Scandal, when Scandal debuted, and this was, like, what was their forte, they were leaning more towards, like, pop rock with, like, a little alt rock, maybe, like, so, like, Shoujo S is, like, the one that put them on the map first, which was the Bleach opening, and the music video where they're all in the schoolgirl outfits and they did the choreographed dances and stuff like that. That got a lot of people's attention. So ironically, this is one of the few bands that when they want to do the pop star thing, it's worked for them really well in the past. Like, I've gotten a lot of cringe out of seeing, like, a lot of bands trying, like, in the mainstream try and do this pop star thing, but it was never like that with Scandal. So I almost wonder, I mean, I don't know what's better for their music at this point, because it's like, as they lean in that more mainstream direction, mainstream J-rock is thankfully, just by all measures, seems to be getting more complex, more having more depth. I could tell they leveled up a little bit with their guitar work and instrumentation. You could give that credit to bands like, starting with Brad Wimps all the way through to the Oral Cigarettes, with like the kind of added level of intricacy that's gone into, like, mainstream guitars in mainstream rock bands and stuff. But I really do think the stuff I enjoyed the most on the album, I did enjoy the entire album, but the stuff that stood out the most would be something like Electric Girl, I think, which was track 9, where they did throw auto-tune on and they did get, like, catchy with it, and they picked up the rhythm a little bit. They do that really well. So I would almost be interested to see them try and come full circle back to that sound, especially because we've really reached, Visual K's been saturated with heavy bands for a while, but it appears that, like, all the hard sounds in all the mainstream genres are starting to saturate the market as well. So it would be interesting to see them make a push towards, like, the poppier side of the pop rock. But again, like, it was a good album. It was a solid album. I'll say I would listen to this album, like, I could see myself listening to it as, like, largely background music. In fact, that's what I was doing today, was, like, listening to it while I, worked on this new stream setup. and
All music is background music.
Scandal's latest album.
No, all music is background music.
All music is background music? I disagree.
Yeah.
Dimlim's latest album cannot be background music. It's not
Caught
possible.
your attention that much?
It's not possible. Yeah, just look out for that review whenever I can wrap my head around this fucking album, man. It's fucking yeah. So, but it's because like when I think of albums that are like solid background music, it's because it's like consistent in its personality and tone all the way through. And it's not a bad thing. Like it's like it enhances the experience of whatever I'm doing, but it just is. It's just like what it is. But they definitely have the J-Rock formula dialed up to 1,000 on that album, so they've still got it, from what I could tell. It's just obviously from what you've said, and it sounds like from Delta in the chat that what you're describing matches what other people have seen. It's just never completely translated over live in a non-stadium setting,
Yeah, it definitely did not, because it just was weird, because it's such a small venue. Like, PlayStation Theater is not a huge venue. I mean, granted, to sell out you have to like sell 3,000 tickets and shit, but it's not. That's if you include the balcony and all that extra space, but because it's like still a relatively small space, like you can see people from the stage. So it was just weird that they didn't like try to high five people, maybe not that, but like just try to like reach out a little more, and include people more in what they were doing on stage.
Yeah, it's a little weird though, because it's like if I remember correctly from the Gazette concert, it is a little bit, the stage is a little bit set back in from the audience, but then the general atmosphere itself feels like an intimate live show.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, I don't even think you could physically reach the crowd from the stage.
I said maybe not like actually touch them, but like just like.
Yeah, but that's the vibe that like
idea.
it puts off though. So it's like you have to really project your live aura, so to speak, out there to like really get people engaged. Is Alexandros doing PlayStation Theater, or are they doing something else?
No, they're doing Gramercy Theater. That's 500 seats to sell out. It's smaller.
Oh, okay.
Gray played there a couple years ago.
One OK Rock did PlayStation Theater, right?
One OK Rock did PlayStation Theater, but last year they did Terminal 5, which is a little bigger than PlayStation Theater, if not the same size. So, yeah. And Miyavi does Irving Plaza, like, routinely, so.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's just very interesting, I guess with Visual K, we're used to getting, like, the complete package of the live, at least the live personality. I guess the problem a lot of Visual K bands would have is that they don't sound good live because they're focused on the presentation, but then the presentation itself is always like spot on. So, and then so it matches what you've seen in the PVs and how you're feeling when you're listening to the recorded music, compared to like, a more mainstream band that's where the focus isn't on that so much. It is on like how catchy the music is, but when it comes to the live show itself, it's pop star problems, really, in a lot of ways.
I hate your pop star life.
Pop star life, pop star life.
Kyoharu, guys.
That Smoker K voice he's got. somehow he made Smoker K like hyper sexy, apparently. But going off of like everyone I've talked to.
I'm pretty sure that's gonna be a style if those words catch on.
If what catches on?
Smoker K.
Yeah. Yeah, so anything else about the live or anything like that?
No. There wasn't anything that left a very deep impression on me, it was nice to be there and it was nice to see them. But honestly, I was like, I wish I had candy to stay up a little bit because it was a long day at the point that I got to the show. And then the audience response to it kind of made me think, oh boy. So,
Yeah. Ugh. Well, I mean, hey, it seems to be the feedback that needs to be, kind of like put out there. I think, if it's not just because it doesn't seem like it's just you, for sure. I'm sure you could tell that. Um,
no, no,
Deltasaurus
man.
says we seem to forget America is a friggin' or yeah, some seem to forget America is a friggin' huge country. From what I understand, a lot of Japanese promoters and artists just view America as this giant, crazy labyrinth that they have no idea how to operate in. So,
They just
yeah,
view it as America, and then like if you ask them, like they don't know East Coast and West Coast. Like they don't perceive that as well. Like they know that the cities are far apart, but you can't. You have somebody would have to explain to them that the different coasts have different things. Because one time I was interviewing Hyde, and he hadn't been in like Vamps hadn't been in DC like anywhere below New York in a long time at that point. It was 2015. And I was like, so is there anything you missed from this area? And Homeboy responded with In and Out. Like, that's nowhere on the East Coast. So I don't know.
yeah.
He's like In and Out.
You know what we should really be putting out there when we talk to those people, like people from the Japanese industry and stuff. We should be telling them to look at America like how you look at Europe, because that comparison's growing more and more accurate by the year. But like it's always been pretty accurate in that it's like continental Europe is, there's a lot of common threads, so many in fact that they're all in the European Union together, but they are technically all separate countries and they do all have their own separate cultures. You can't just be like, oh, France, you mean like Germany, right? It's like, no, no, no.
Oh my
You have
God.
to plan for each one, and maybe they all are similar
States in
plans
America.
but different.
You
States,
should
it's
explain
like
that states in America are like countries in Europe. Like
or like
that's
regions, like because you got Midwest, you got South, you got East Coast, West Coast,
I
and West Coast.
yeah, at least the regions. At least
Yeah,
the regions. Like just teach them US history. Be like, yeah, so the
they don't want
South
to. They don't got
like
time for that, man.
just
Nobody with
like
a full time
at
job
least
has time to learn about foreign nations' histories. Come on.
just be like sometimes there's a different flag waving, but that's only in this area, in like this one particular area.
Yeah, California, where they're trying to secede.
No.
I'm just kidding. Yeah, so I think even if you did just like even time zones, even or I think East
Time
Coast,
zone.
West Coast, and Midwest is the three biggest. Like Florida here, it's like it's just it's a big exception to like the three states above us. But I would say you could, if you want to get reductive, just lump everything down to New York City. Treat that for the whole Eastern Seaboard like how you would treat New York City, and like for the West Coast. I haven't even been over there actually, but I don't think it would be the worst thing in the world if you played in Portland in a similar way as you would play in LA. Um, you know, but I mean, yeah, it definitely requires a good deal of planning and strategy, I think, to pull it off properly. Um, Although, like, this is like a rare case for these bands because usually they've been over here more recently or they've made their music more available more recently. That's a big problem. Like, this album could easily be up on streaming services, and it's not. It is a
It's definitely
streaming
not.
service friendly album, too. Like, this is the
It is
perfect
a
album to put on Spotify and Apple Music.
public, it is a mainstream hence stream.
It's
Album.
hyper digestible, which is I guess
Yeah.
part of why I put it as background music. So it's hyper digestible, and it's interesting, and it's more interesting than our mainstream music, and like yeah, it's perfect to put up there. And then just be like, yeah, it's the band from Bleach and Full Metal Alchemist and all this other stuff. And then more people would know, and more people would show up. So in this case, it's weird. It's weird because it's like, I think people that went there, I would imagine, or that are showing up on their stops, I would imagine they vaguely remember Scandal, So like, it's not, and so it's like it's a J-rock band passing through their city. And they remember Scandal a bit, so yeah, why not go get a ticket? Beats whatever else is playing, in that day or that week. So it's I could imagine there's much less investment from the audience. It makes sense that you saw that, I guess.
The small investment from the audience.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've never been to not a rock concert before, except for when I was like 9. That was a long time ago. But yeah, I've never been to a concert that I had to pay for. Let's put it that way. Yeah, and all those concerts I go to are when I'm covering it for VKH, and thus it's only a J-rock concert. Like I've only ever seen like crowds go fucking nuts and like almost kill people, and then I'd have to like fend for myself to protect my camera and shit. But like this was like the first time where I was just standing there legit chilling in the back, and I was like, all right, it's a show. Like it's a show, not a concert.
Yeah.
A show.
Well, it's like in Miami we have Ultra Music Festival that goes on every year. And that's like this massive EDM festival where all these big name DJs come, and it's a huge event. It's a huge party, just parties everywhere and stuff like that. But the thing is, like, for all of us that actually live here, because I've had friends that have like lived here for like many years, and it's always the same conversation every year, which is like, they're not thinking, first of all, they're all thinking about going. They're like, should I go this year? I think I'll go this year. That's like where it starts. And they're not weighing whether or not there's like a lot of artists that they're super into, like they're super into Diplo or something, and he's going to be there. It's more like, I know these artists, I play their music casually at parties I host, or events I go, that I attend. I hear their music, it's played there, and you could kind of correlate that to Scandal with like, I know them from anime, and I hear their songs at anime conventions and see their music videos every now and then at places at fan meetups I go to and whatever. But then like the next step of that is like, well, if I'm gonna go to Ultra, I'm really going there to party. Like I'm going there because it's a party, it's an event, and I'm just gonna hang out with a bunch of people, and there'll be a cool spectacle probably, but it's not like it's a make or break thing if like the performer sucks, because you could go to another one, or you could like just go. Everybody's using it as an excuse to throw like an extra special event. So it kind of seems like that would be the vibe of this, is like, because I was looking at Scandal, I was like, if they had come to my city, like, would I have I probably would have had like a similar thought. I would have been like, well, I mean, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if it was uninteresting. It would just be nice to check out this venue that they're playing at, because if they were playing in Miami, I don't know what venue they would play at, so it'd be interesting to go. But like it, yeah, I wouldn't be like super invested in it, myself. So Delta says, my face when he is literally describing why I went to their concert. Wanted to hear Shunkin Sentimental, and that was it. That was the Full Metal Alchemist outro. Yeah. So I mean, it is what it is. So this is a stream this is basically a top 40 stream for Japan, an Oricon top 10 stream,
Oricon top 10 stream.
Yeah, so if you like their music, you can get their music, but it's like, it really is like it's a it's a casual buy, it's a casual listen. So it is much more appropriate for streaming. I think they would get a lot of streams because people would casually listen to their music. I wonder if they've sold less albums lately as a result of streaming services being a thing, but then them still asking you to buy their physical album.
Are you implying that they came to New York out of desperation to regain their older fans?
No, I mean possibly. Like, I don't think it was out of desperation. I don't even think they were. It seems like from the performance that they weren't aware of the situation.
I think they just straight up forgot.
Well, I mean,
Like,
the number of times we've had to explain the concept of Spotify to people.
yeah,
In this
yeah.
fucking industry, like it's very much a foreign and somewhat irrelevant concept in Japan, becoming more relevant by the day because Spotify did launch in Japan, and they are adding more artists. They are starting to come in that way, but Japan's music culture has been perfectly happy with just buying physical albums and just taking full advantage of the fact that it's a physical CD. So they're, and because they have because they do have like the second largest industry, but then I would say, they have the most diverse music industry, like definitely more than the United States. It seems like there's just a plethora of things to buy, so you don't feel like you're wasting money buying music, I guess. Compared to here, where I think half the reason why streaming services caught on because of piracy, but the main reason piracy caught on is because everybody felt like they were getting ripped off by having to pay $12 or $16 for a CD, and I would just posit that you wouldn't feel ripped off by that if you. I never bought a CD for any artists. The CDs I bought when I was growing up, I bought them because I was super invested in the artist. I was super excited to get the CD and super excited to open it. So, if people are starting to feel, I can see where that comes from. So, it's a clash of a culture that's moved on like ours to like a more digital age, and a culture that's done just fine with like the original format of the physical CDs, like Japan. So yeah, I honestly wouldn't be surprised if A&R, their A&R and everything like just was completely unaware of like the situation.
I think the awareness of the situation comes in where you get more A&R people that are that lived in America for an extended period of time, right? Because with Vamps, I know that their A&R guy used to live in Georgia, so they became super popular over here and were doing as much as they were because their A&R guy was able to convince them that was what they had to do. Like, let America do its thing and just play by the rules, Whereas with the Japanese A&R, Japanese management, they want America to play by their rules, and that makes it so much harder for them to get popular over here.
Yeah, for sure. I think they would be popular if they were just able to get more eyes on them. I did flip through some of their PVs today, and well, first of all, it cracks me up how many of them look like they have an Instagram filter on them. Like the more recent ones, like they just have like this muted kind of, like filter on all of their stuff. But I think that would go over really, really well here. It's like K-pop meets West Coast kind of fashion and stuff. Like, it's like what it looks like to me. Or East Coast. I don't know. The Instagram filter makes me think West Coast because I stereotype like a motherfucker. But like makes me think of LA. It's I think it's a certain aesthetic and fashion style that they have that they make a point of mentioning in their press releases and stuff. I think they would do fine if they just had a little bit more exposure. They have aged quite gracefully, by the way. Like they're not trying to do the schoolgirl thing at all anymore.
They're
They dress.
doing the grown ass bitch kind of thing.
They're very trendy. Uh,
Yeah, no, when they came onto stage, like I definitely noticed all of the checkered print that they were wearing, but it was like tasteful. It was really nice and very colorful.
are they on Instagram?
Are they?
Like the individual members.
Oh, I think so. I don't know. I feel like everyone has an Instagram now.
Okay, yes,
But the
there.
thing
All
is
right,
that
good.
all the
I was gonna
members
say like they would do. They
really
should do
well on
great.
Instagram
Yeah, well, they actively post or whatever, which it looks like
and
they do.
add their few hashtags here and there. Who is it that adds a bunch of hashtags all the time? There's like several J-Rock artists that just add a bunch of hashtags just all the time.
That just sounds like everyone with more than 10,000 followers on Instagram. I'm not gonna lie.
That's true. I do not do the hashtag thing.
I do until I get tired of typing hashtags. And even I'm only good for that like once a week tops. For that. Yeah, they all seem fairly active on Instagram. I feel like they could lean into it more. Like they just look like casually taking photos. You gotta get like you gotta do the whole crazy Instagram model thing. Get those filters that they have in the music videos on. Get them on them in the Instagram posts in the kind of trendy clothes they're rocking there. Yeah,
Jeff has a plan to market Scandal.
Man, I don't. I'm trying to think how much I should say, but it's like, man, like you get me in charge of some of this stuff. I will fix your Japanese band up for the States. Oh, and so will Winona too. So, like,
Oh fuck yeah! Give me your brand and I will make it better.
oh yeah, oh god, yeah. So,
You've got whack merchandise. Let me fix it.
oh yeah. Speaking of, that's coming soon. And I know I've said that for a while, but just hold off a little bit because Winona did show me what she's got now, what she can do, and oh boy, so I decided to postpone it a little bit longer than I would have originally wanted to because it'll be worth it. I'll just say that. Just hang tight.
Better
It's
if
gonna
I
be
do it
really
than if
fucking worth
Jeff
it.
do it.
What?
It's better if I do it than if they let you do it.
Yeah, well, I mean, if I do it, it'll be all like funny and silly, or I'll like go on Fiverr. I'll go on Fiverr and pay different artists like a small amount, like whatever they're charging to like make something. But I'd rather just be something uniquely VKH, aka uniquely Winona. So like, yeah.
Yeah, I got you, fam. It's gonna be super dope.
Yeah, God.
You should say,
yeah.
I got you, fam, but super dope looking, I got you.
I got you, fam could be one.
That could be a great shirt.
Yeah. Guys, send us quotes you want on shirts from the streams.
Yeah, please.
We could do that.
I'll make those quotes. I'll make them great shirts.
I will tell you what the fuck is up, I believe was the one that got quoted from me.
Oh yeah, that got quoted. I saw that. I saw that on Twitter. Oh my gosh.
Can that be like the After Hours official slogan is telling you what the fuck is up? Oh god. And they want wrench wench shirt when yes I told her off air that you guys want a wrench wench shirt. I will definitely do it. Or Winona will definitely is we've got that as well. So yeah, let me see if I had any other thoughts about their music. I had written some notes down. Yeah, the closest thing I could draw that album to would be something like Sid, I guess, which is like amazing background music, especially this mini album. But Sid's a little bit more engaging I would say, these days than this was. But it's like that kind of a kind of music, like super upbeat, something you can just have in the background, keep you going, keep you do whatever you getting done whatever you need to get done. It's very consistent, so it's not super intrusive or distracting. I could really see someone, like browsing an anime forum with it playing in the background, doing chores, cooking a bunch of steak, which I may or may not have done with music like this. And yeah, it's about it. And then it's interesting. They're definitely, like they're not that far off from Bandmate in terms of guitar work, although they lean more on the pop rock, alt rock side as opposed to the harder rock side.
See, their music
also,
is really good.
Yeah, apparently chat doesn't know Bandmate, so we may have to fix that because I suspect a lot of people may have passed on that. And they are. I think they're underrated.
Yeah, they're definitely underrated because of their. I think it's because of the look.
They're not undersold for sure. Like they get millions of views, and they have a fan
base. They
just
look like they're overhyped, but they're actually underrated.
Yeah, exactly. It's weird. When you look when people think you're overhyped, but you're actually underrated.
Underrated, yeah. They're actually exactly where they should be, but no one wants to believe it.
Yeah, I mean, I still give them credit because they covered "Honey" by Mook for their tribute album. It was great.
Yeah, it was a great cover.
Yeah, they nailed it.
When I hear it, it's on Mook's 20th anniversary tribute album where they had a bunch of artists come in and cover their stuff. They even got Homemade Kazuku on there, where it was like, all right, guys, let's show these emo kids how to do this.
Yeah, basically. Oh, man. Yeah, so, yeah, guys, let us know what you think of Scandal. In the chat, I saw some of you, or like if you're watching this later, like in the comments, if you have similar thoughts. Sounds like the people in the chat had similar thoughts or hadn't checked them out yet. It seems like a band that's always in the back of the minds of at least people like the people that watch this show. And I for reasons that we've gone into, I totally understand why. And it totally has been like that for me all the way up until like today when I finally got around to the album. So, and yeah, and it's because it's not in your face, and like they're a big deal and they're not going anywhere, but you gotta like go buy it and go figure out where it is, and then like all that, and it's like a bit of a hassle. So, but yeah, so yeah, thanks everybody for watching, and thanks for coming on, Winona.
Yeah, it's been real.
Yeah. I'll type this in the Discord so that other people see it, but I'm going to need to push the after hours back a little bit. I think I'm going to push it to like 11:30 for tonight. But just keep an eye on Discord. I'll be putting out the link there and on Twitter. But you're going to want to be in the VKH Live off-air hangout channel for that stream, and you'll see why. Also, it's going to be anime related to a degree. Also Visual K related, but also anime related. You may be
curious that stream?
To check that out. Yeah. So I gotta go.
I'll be there for that stream. Yeah.
I gotta go watch a few episodes real quick.
Oh my god.
But I also have to go eat. So I was like, shit, I can't do one or the other.
You can do both at the same time.
Yeah, I know, but I gotta go buy meat from Whole Foods real quick.
So. I gotta go buy dinner. Actually, that's what I'm facing. But we also gotta make lists. I gotta inform Jeff on things.
Yeah, that too. Yeah. Okay. So we'll see you guys at 11:30. And yeah, peace out, guys.
Bye.